So yes, I was scared. That's what scared me. And don't forget, there are all sorts of ways of playing Holmes. I mean, there are those that just wear the deer stalker, put in the calabash pipe, wear the inverness cape, and walk through it. You know, puff, 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 and off we go. And then there are the others like Robert Stevens, who I thought was absolutely brilliant in that not frightfully good film of Billy Wilder's. Obviously, Basil took it very seriously. William Gillette, I would guess, took it very seriously. Ellie Norwood took it very seriously. But there are those that just pass through. I'm not going to mention any more names, but you can imagine. I mean, you've all seen them. You can spot them. Because they're not thinking, they're puffing. Yes, sir.
How is Charlton Heston as Sherlock Holmes? I have a hard time trying to visualize him as Sherlock Holmes.
Well, you're going to have a chance in a minute. He's just finished the film of The Cruisers of Blood. I thought he wasn't half bad on stage. I don't know why Los Angeles press was so rude. I thought he wasn't half bad. I mean, if you're unfortunate enough to be someone who's been carved in rock for 50 years of your life, you can't put a few people's noses out of joint. I could only presume that's why Los Angeles was so rude. I thought he wasn't half bad. He's a very nice man, I'll tell you that. He's a great leader, I think, too. His wife said something awfully sweet, Linda. She said, I said, I do think your husband is such a marvelous man. And she said, don't tell him he's got a big enough head already. Yes? As Sherlock? Well, Johnny Gielgud and Ralph Richardson played his Watson. And there was a moment when he came in disguised as a Coleman in the radio play. And he says, I'm just come to deliver coal. I'm the Coleman. Oh, do come in. Bless it over there. That's Watson, Ralph. And then, of course, he whips off his disguise. Holmes. I mistook you for a coal heaver. I thought it was appalling. Rathbone, I thought, was it. For me, he is it. I see him all the time as the Holmes. He seems to walk straight out of Doyle's imagination. He's got this magnificent voice without any of the lyrical rubbish that I put in. He seems to me it. I only wish that he'd done more Doyle. That's all. I'm sure he would if he was alive today. But he was it as far as I was concerned. Still is. Yes?
How did you, I didn't realize that you had done the play Dracula. How did you enjoy doing that?
I'm afraid far too much. far too much. It was the greatest fun. It is such an extraordinary piece of fantasy. And I saw Frank Langella play it on Broadway brilliantly. And I was asked to do it in London, and then I said, but I'm in Los Angeles, so I was given it in Los Angeles. I then played it in San Diego, Denver, San Francisco, Chicago. The funny part about it was that they said, Jeremy, I'm so sorry, we're going to have to work on you. I said, why? I said, well, I don't know. He said, no, it's fine. We're just calling you tomorrow. It's your curtain call. You cannot take a curtain call as though you're apologizing for your existence. You can't. You've got to take the stay. Well, I'm afraid I learned to do that. And it was the most outrageous curtain call in the history of the Armisen Theatre. And I got back to London, and of course, we come to The Secret of Sherlock Holmes. And I loved my curtain call as Dracula. So a girlfriend of mine called Pat Quinn came round after the night she'd seen it. She said, "My God," she said, "the curtain call's Act 3. That's what I learned from playing Dracula. Yeah.
In the Six Napoleons, where you whip the tablecloth off the table for,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that comes to you naturally? You actually do that? I mean, was it
Now, what am I meant to say? I mean, do you want mystique or do you want fact? I do it all the time. Yes. Yes, dear.
You mentioned your singing. I was just going to ask if you had done your own singing, My Fair Lady, because I was absolutely smitten as a young girl.
Well, I tell you what was such fun about that was that I had a little tiny bit of trouble because in the play, in the musical, well, he's gone to paradise now, so I can tell this story. Forgive me, Rex. In the play, he was aware that On the Street Where You Live was going to be the hit number, but he tried to have it cut. But he couldn't because they were changing over for Ascot. So when we get to the film, he comes onto the set and he says, "You can't use this set. I need it, for I've grown accustomed to her face." I said, "Oh my God, here we go again." So I said, "Well, what are we going to do?" So that's why it's surrounded by sepia, so that the set won't show. He was still trying to cut the song. Very, very cheeky boy. Yes, I sang again after that. I did The Merry Widow, which I don't know whether you've seen over here. Recorded it. But that was really it. I've done about 5 musicals and then that was it. I loved it, but I'm loving other things. Yes. Yes, yes I have. I'm a great fan of his, and I think he's got an insight of some kind.
Could you repeat the question?
I have to be a reality television Sherlock Holmes and I
Yes, I think that was quite nice. The book you read next was a bit better. It's been a very long haul trying to please people playing Sherlock Holmes, and it's getting a little bit better. There was a critic in New York called John O'Connor, who's the television critic, and it's taken me 4 years to win him round. Tough going. You see, the thing is, everyone's Holmes. This is the point. He's Holmes at this moment. And all I can do is a brass rubbing and pray I don't offend anyone. That's the absolute truth. Yes?
how many films have you been in that have had theatrical releases? And did I hear you say you're going to be in a film with Harrison Ford?
Yeah, we're starting about the 28th of November. It's very good for me to nip off and do something else because I come back to Holmes fresh.
Could you tell us about that?
Oh, well, it's a very good book. Patrick Page. We're shooting it in England, and it'll be, I think it's 5 weeks from now. No, 4, I think. And I'm a great fan of his, so I look forward to it. Is that it? Okay.
There are a couple of stories, Blanche Soldier and Mazarin Stone, that are sort of written by Holmes. Well, if you get around to doing those, well, do you know if there'll be any different approach to it? To doing those, or there's another one written in third person, last vowel.
It's going to have to be decisions made by my studio. The thing is this, I've already shot just in case we all have to come to a grinding halt. Me beekeeping in Kent. I'm not sure with the recession as it is and how far we can go. And those decisions are really not mine. I'm hoping. Where I come in is when I get the adaptation and I keep on saying, surely Doyle's better. That's where I come in. I'm not in on the first structure. That's their choice and their genius. And the real work goes on before I arrive, especially in regard to research, the locations, which are all found before I arrive, or even thought of. That's their brilliance. I come in a very deep second. And I've left this last film, Charles Augustus Milverton, which I finished last Friday week, and it went big, finalized, and final cut, and then they got the composer, Patrick Gowers, and the orchestra and all that, the final cut. I mean, I'm gone, and they're still working. So, I mean, you know, I'm only a piece of the mosaic in an enormous shape. Hang on. Yes.
Give us more details about the play. You know, where it's going to be or...
Well, no, the idea is it's really when. And I think January is a good month because it's windy and I mean, summer's awfully complicated. When we were playing in Midsummer in London, it was awfully silly. I don't know why, you know, when you come in, you know, it's 100 degrees. I think winter's the best, and winter in New York I love. And so we just settled on January, the 12th. That's the plan. But also, what I want to do is to tour it, and all that's got to be talked about. And find out. I've got to find out exactly what they plan. As long as they get it right and don't sell it as a thriller, but as a play, it'll be all right. That's right. Yes, sir.
Are you a real quick study as far as your lines are concerned? And I assume you don't do very much ad-libbing in any of the series, do you?
No. I'm a slow study.
So you labor over the lines quite a lot.
I'm dyslexic. Yes. Any more? Yes, sir.
Have you or anyone else on the show ever been injured in any way, or has there been any accidents with
No, never.
marriages or anything?
I very nearly got a nasty fall in the solitary cyclist because I thought it would be more effective if I stood up driving the carriage. And on one take, it went over a bump and I took off like a ping pong ball. But I luckily landed on the carriage. No, I don't think it
Knock wood.
touch wood, I should say. No, it hasn't.
Are there any practical jokes that were pulled on the set? Or I guess you don't have time to, but I imagine all the tension stuff. Once in a while, somebody does a little pratfall or something. Or...
Yes, Watson was writing his farewell to me, David Burke, in The Final Problem, with great distinction and solemnity. And I suddenly appeared out of the window. Yes, that was naughty. Ted, I said, "Do you have your gun with you?" Watson threw his gun, flew out of his hand and went straight into the fire. Yes, there are moments, yes.
You find that relieve some of the tension, makes it a little more better on the set, when something like that happens? Or...
Oh, well, there's lots of jokes. I mean, when I jumped the sofa in the Red-Headed League, they said, "Jenny, I'm so sorry, listen, if you're going to do that, we're going to have to do a new setup. We can't, you get out of frame." So I said, so they pulled the Cadillac so I could get the jump in. And my son rang me and said, "Dad, you jumped the sofa." That's all I actually saw. I mean, you mustn't expect your children to be devotees of anyone. Yes.
last night you started at the banquet, you started telling a story about being in New Orleans and wondering what would happen if you went upriver and the sound system failed. What's the rest of that story?
Let's hear the beginning of it.
I don't remember that. What did I say?
You said you'd been in New Orleans and you wondered what would happen if you went upriver.
Ah, yes, indeed. I went to New Orleans and fell in love with oysters. I went on honeymoon to New Orleans. And at a later date, I went to Natchez, which is breathtaking. And I looked upstream then and wondered where it led to. And now I'm here and I want to go on the river and go down to Natchez. I asked, I wondered how long it would take, that's all. And if there was a boat going, I'd love to do it sometime. There is. Oh, marvelous. Great. I'd love to do that. The Queen of the Mississippi. How long will it take, baby? Wonderful. Oh.
13 miles an hour.
Brilliant. Oh, I'd long to go to that place for a while. Wonderful, I'll do that. I'll come back and do that. I'll be taken out by my son's best friend who comes from St. Louis. And so I'm going to see a little bit of your wonderful city tonight. I'm very pleased and thrilled. It's only a touch, but it's better than nothing. Yes?
Why are you going to turn the child to that person with 2 hours show? That's really long.
It's a very short story. Well, I tell you what we've done. We've been naughty. We have got Dame Jean Conan Doyle's blessing. She read it and likes it. What we've done is we haven't just got one black man case. We have 4. And we start off with a dowager, old lady, sitting in a bath chair, and her 2 grandchildren, have been involved in a scandal, have been banished to France, and she asks for Holmes' help. And what's interesting about that is the lady who is playing the dowager is a wonderful woman called Dame Gwen Francon Davis, and she's 101 on November the 4th. And she was John Gilbert's leading lady, and I'm no doubt Sir Arthur Conan Doyle saw her acting. So maybe he'll forgive us. Yes, sir.
I noticed there isn't a lot of merchandise on your character as Holmes, your portrayal. Is your studio looking into merchandising your portrayal as Holmes more like for
Well, I tell you what is so complicated, because I'm still playing and they can't give my clothes away. I have a magic box, which I'd love to show you, but it's all locked up, you see, because I had my amber pipe stolen by VIP. I left it on the mantelpiece in the Baker Street set, and they went through saying, oh, and gone. So they keep all my memorabilia in this box. And you can imagine everything that Holmes needs. Every magnifying glass you've ever seen me use, every pipe, everything is in there.
What about things like posters and T-shirts?
That's Granada Tours. Now they have, this will make you laugh. The street, the Baker Street has been taken over by Granada Tours. Which you won't believe this. Just get another cigarette. We can't use the street except on Mondays. I walk into Baker Street and I walk into a pizza parlor. They made it up because that's for the tourists. So I walk straight into 2-to-1B like a, and I'm straight in the middle of a pizza parlor. And sometimes it's not been cleared up, and there's a bit of pizza the night before because the cleaners haven't come in. Also, which is even more tragic, we can't shoot that way. Because that way is Checkpoint Charlie, and this way is a kind of greenhouse thing. So we're having to shoot back and forth, which isn't the same thing at all. Such is recession. But there's lots of memorabilia, if you like it. I mean, my little Mrs. Hudson's got her own tea shop. And with a little picture on the teapot, and lots of T-shirts around.
But that's just strictly in England. Is it coming over here to America, or we can?
I don't think we're terribly insular. Well, I mean, I love us, but we are terribly insular. I don't think it's crossed their minds. You can get Patrick Gar's recordings of the show. And there's a new one come out when he did a concert the other day. Because I spoke to him this morning, and it's MTI, whatever that stands for, are releasing it. And it's a concert that was done about 4 weeks ago in Cambridge, England. So you can get that, and his wonderful score from all the films. I have great fun when I have children with me because they love to smoke my pipe and put on my hat. And the children make it for me. And the Baker Street of regulars on my street, because Holmes was so marvelous with children. That makes my day. And there was one little boy on the back lot, and it was a cold day, and of course they had to have bare feet. And he was frozen, and he'd wet himself. And I said, that little boy is in terrible distress. Please, can somebody help him? And they asked him, he said, listen, would you like to go indoors? He said, I'm going to be in this film, and I'm not going to be taken away.
When you assume the character of Holmes, what is it about him that which you displayed to the camera? Let me answer another way. What is it about Doyle's writings that you see Holmes, within Holmes, as being such a velocity of, I think you called him earlier a magnesium streak, his incredible energy? What is it within Doyle's writings that gives you that glimpse of him as being such a...
Well, it's all there. Holmes moves through the bracken like a golden retriever in search of a wounded bird. Holmes was one field ahead of me. The thing about him, which is so magical, is that when he's on a case, his mind is like quicksilver. As a mere mortal, I use energy to compensate for my lack of genius in that genre. And I find it fascinating that someone can be that brilliant. I can only reach for it. I can't do it, but I can only reach for it. And I try and give the impression of the brilliance and the speed of his mind, quite often by the speed of my movement. Also, there's something else, and that is in black and white, which Basil was using, Basil Rathbone was using. I think it's actually better. Color is inclined to soften the blow. It's a little pastoral, and therefore usually you may notice that when I'm in the country I move faster, because I think otherwise you just get lulled by the greens and the trees. So I'm inclined to move faster than... No, I just move fast. That's the only way I can think of doing it. I think of him as a brilliant, whatever kind of cat you like, but now brilliant at cats, tigers, cheetahs move. I feel it like that. And I have these extraordinary shoes which are dictated to me by the pattern drawings, which are wonderful, pointed. I can point with them. And part of the time, of course, I tripped over and nearly killed myself in the Crooked Man. When I ran over the top of the hill and then ran back, on the first take I did an enormous somersault. Because sometimes the pointed toes get under me. That's the way I indicate. I can only think of indicating speed of mind. I use that, the energy, to indicate that, I hope. Yes.
I have never found the 60 stories by Doyle in one collection anywhere. It seems that every book I've bought contains the usual 26, 27 stories. Does such a thing exist?
I believe there is. Yes. You can tell it. I tell you, it's just been released, hasn't it? Yes. It's old. It's come back. Here it is, sir. I tell you what is very interesting. In 1982, I tried to buy, because mine, I don't know where it had gone. I had it at the university, and I lost my copy. And I tried to buy the complete works of Conan Doyle. I could not find one in London. And there was one in a bookshop called Foyle's, which had been ordered from America, from New York. And because it hadn't been collected, I was allowed to buy it, which shows what a solid state Doyle was in at that time. I'm happy to be able to say that now he's everywhere, which is lovely for Dame Jean, his daughter. Yes, sir?
Have you ever read any of his fantasy fiction, or is it?
Yes. I have to be truthful and state that I lose my way a little bit there. I don't suppose really we should expect too much more than what he gave us. If he wandered a little bit towards the end of his life, I guess we all might. His contribution is so major that I think we should be just thrilled with that. Yes.
Have you ever done any radio? I was just thinking about magnificent vocal range tones.
It's very difficult being dyslexic, so I have actually tried. I did a radio once, but I had to learn it, of course, like Brown. I've done a lot of Robert Brown. I've done on radio, I've sung him, and I've acted him, so no, I haven't.
Do you ever think you might do some recordings of the Sherlock Holmes stories? Or have you done it under?
Me recording?
Yes. For release?
Do we learn the entire canon? Yes. No, I don't think so. No, I think I'll just leave it be. Someone else can do that. You can do that. Michael can do that. Well, I guess.
I've never seen that it was shut off, but I heard somewhere that Eric Porter was in the Professor Moriarty. Why did
Moriarty was invented by Doyle to kill his hero off. And it was a quick shock to the public that were reading the Strand magazines. And there's a wonderful etching of a little boy sitting up in bed with a candle, weeping as he reads of his hero's death. Doyle, I think, wanted to get on with his more serious writing. And he only put him in Moriarty in one story. So what we thought we'd do, or Michael Cox, my beloved producer, thought we might do, and John Hawksworth at that time, our adapter, might do, is to pop him in a little bit into the Red-Headed League, so there's a little bit more of the threat. He doesn't do very much in the Red-Headed League, he just appears. Indeed, I've got a Sherlock in. Yes, it does. But he doesn't appear in the Red-Headed League, so we popped him in there to bridge the gap into. We also went out all the time, you know that. And we popped a return in, and we popped an adventure in. We've done naughty things. Yeah.
Now, where has this tour taken?
Gosh, I'll try and get it right. New York for a week, I've just done that. Wonderful, wonderful. Heat wave. Marvelous. New York was looking absolutely fabulous. Then I went to Los Angeles, again a heat wave, absolutely amazing. And I had a lovely hotel with a pool, so I did interview pool, interview pool, interview pool. Then I went to Dallas, where I was put in a brilliant tower built for Ronald Reagan, Nancy, in 1984. And I had 3 suites and gave a cocktail party to people I'd never met before in my life. And that was absolutely lovely. Didn't see Dallas except from the hotel window. Arrived here 2 days ago, leave tomorrow morning for Atlanta. Then I go to Detroit for a day. Then I go to Philadelphia for a week. Washington, D.C. for a week. Boston for a week. Cleveland for 2 days. Chicago for 5 days. Back to Clapham. Well, it doesn't bother you in Cleveland? Yes, I think so. And also, I'm here, and this is the home of Tennessee Williams, one of my most favorite plays in the world, Sullivan Smoke, Glass Menagerie, Streetcar Named Desire, and Vincent Price. I had dinner with him last Monday, and he's just gone to Hawaii with his son. His wife died 3 months ago, and but he's getting better.
How's he doing?
He's all right.
Health-wise, I mean.
I spoke to Reggie, who's the houseboy, and yesterday, and he's taken his swimming trunks. So that's a good start.
When you think of Holmes, when you're away from Holmes and you think of Holmes, do you have one favorite image or one favorite line or a scene or a passage from the canon that comes back to you that is your kind of indelible impression that when you think of him?
Yes. There's one piece which I find absolutely extraordinary in the Copper Beaches, when he's talking about how dangerous the countryside is compared to the town. But my favorite expression of his pray. Continue. Anything else? Yes.
Now that, I know Michael Cox was the originator of the show, but since he's left Granada, is he associated with the program anymore? And if he's not, has it changed?
He certainly is. I rang him this morning. He's no longer part of Granada, but he's my mentor as far as this is concerned, and I can't move without him. And I rang him to tell him about what I was doing and what we're planning to do. And no, I won't move without him. I may not have him as my producer, but he's there. Yes. Yes, sir.
A lot of Americans complain that they don't understand English actors on television or on public television. And I recently learned that it's not because of accents, it's because of the microphones that are used on English productions. What kind of microphones do you use? Do you have lapel mics? Do you have boom mics?
Boom.
Directional?
I don't think it's that. I honestly don't think it's that. I think it's... When I was doing Max de Winter and Rebecca, here's an example. And we must remember that my late wife was American, from Wisconsin. And I had a line when I had to say, do you know the West Country? And my director said, no, Jim, that's not the way to say it. You say, do you know the West Country? And I said, but hang on, in America, the West is very different. We're talking about the West Country being Cornwall in England. I must say West Country. He got so nervous that he allowed me to say it. Do you know the West Country? And this is how he shot it. You're me, and I'm the girl, right? Do you know the West Country? In other words, we don't, it's an ear. You must. I mean, we're playing to 83 countries now. I mean, many of them are English speaking. And you cannot expect, I mean, I find with Holmes, I have to tune in myself to, it's like the crystal set, tuning it, because it is such deep Victoriana, almost Dickens. And you've got to remember that it's being heard in Resolute Bay, Alaska. And try and remember that all the time. I do think that with Doyle's extraordinary invention, it was easier to speak more slowly as Max because he's in mourning for his life because he's murdered his wife. As Holmes, sometimes it's difficult to speak slowly, otherwise you lose the intensity. And I'm sad about that. It's just simply the fact that we don't think widely enough about who might be listening. I don't think it's the mics. I think it's us. I mean, the British. Also, we have so many accents. I mean, I was watching something the other night in the hotel, and I thought, I wonder if anyone's understanding this. I mean, when I was pledging for this studio, I said to myself, I said to Bill, who's my guardian, he said, I wonder if anyone's understanding me, because I'm so English. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I'm aware of the problem. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, in the films? Do you?
I always record them so that I can rewind the videotape and listen to it.
I tell you what's great fun is that when I've met the guy who's doing me in Barcelona, because many places I'm done, and he's a guy, I can't remember his name, but he comes from Barcelona, but he smokes Gitan cigarettes. Maze Gitan, and he's got this wonderful place down here. I thought, that's a good idea. I like that. I'm interested to know what happens in Japan. And I'm also fascinated to know what's happening in India. You know, I mean, it's whether, I don't know. I mean, I know that in Germany I've got a very, very, very funny voice. And I had a professor write saying, you've been dubbed a bomb. I think it may be because we won the Second World War. A little punishment going on. The French have got me for sounding rather strange too. Another little bit of punishment maybe. They didn't like us liberating them either. To upset their pride. So we just try to remember. Booms. That's what we need.
After all the coffee at the banquet last night, I was awake and looked at a couple of films. It seems to me, comparing what I heard last night and what I'm hearing from you right now, your voice is much deeper, much richer than when you're playing Sherlock Holmes. Do you intentionally tighten your vocal in order to go along with the character, or is that an electronic difference that I noticed? Do you intentionally alter your voice when you play? Okay. Maybe it's just the whole persona comes through that way. It fits. The voice
I just
fits.
think that probably, I mean, sound is such a miracle, isn't it? I mean, that we can be heard at all in 16,000 different countries is just simply unbelievable. And I guess there's a slight, I don't know, is there a warp on Channel 9?
No, I was looking at two of the films last night.
Then it's my fault.
No, it's great.
To that mic, and of course it enriches your voice. When you're doing a boom mic, it's going to give it a little bit of.
Yes.
All right, then it's electronic.
That's right. Yes, sir.
You mentioned two items of personal interest that I really am: archery and horsemanship. To what degree do you have time to participate in those two activities?
Well, horses has had to become, I mean, when I say I love horses, it's very much simpler than it sounds. I don't need to ride them to love them. And because of the films I'm making, I'm with them a lot. There are lunch breaks when the studio won't allow me to ride. But I do take Ruhr, who's an Albanian, and a dear friend of mine. And I ride him all lunch sometimes. As far as archery is concerned, I have to go to the country because in Clapham I'd kill someone. But I have drawn a bow in Clapham, but at dawn. But no, archery is the country. It's a fascinating art. Fascinating. Yes, sir.
Getting back to the woman's comment about the voice, I just to answer my observation of it is on the show when you're playing Holmes, for one thing, you're speaking faster, and I think the voice does go off a little bit just because of the way you're playing the character. You're talking faster like that, because I've noticed just in the past couple days hearing you, to me you sound the same. There's moments where you get into that, where it sounds just like you do on the show. And
I tell you, the thing is,
low key here.
I tell you what happens, that when you, going back to the becoming of a person, as best you possibly can, is that you do give yourself to it. And there are times when I can hear myself. I mean, especially when I'm on the move. Yes, it becomes almost tenor, which of course I was. I had to break my voice to get down. Simply because, you know, it's better at my age, 55, to have a voice that's here than it is to have a voice there. So it's when you become a person or try to become a person, all sorts of things happen. I mean, I don't use my hands. And when I play Holmes, they begin to happen. And I'm aware of that, and I see it when I hate watching myself, but when I have to, when there's something like that was in Dallas, when they sat me down, I had to watch myself. And I am aware, I go, God, where's that come from? I can't tell you what, I mean, the things that die of embarrassment. You know, but they're not part of me. They come. And I know, you know, when it happens, I can feel it. But it happens really in those hours, I was telling you, between 5, 6, 7. That's when he begins to, I'm allowed to be old enough to get near him. And then all sorts of things take over. I'm quite glad I've got pixie ears, because I do think that when I've got my hair slicked back, it looks as though I'm listening. And I think Holmes' sense of hearing is rather like young Michael's in there. I think a child hears like Holmes hears. A child, you see, can see a spider's web in the corner of a room with the dew on it. He can see the dog scratching for a flea. He can hear his mother in the garden talking to the neighbor. He can hear his father's car probably a mile away coming. At the same time, he's doing a jigsaw puzzle with his hands. As a child. I think that's what Darwin invested Holmes with. He remembered. Yes?
You said that it took an hour for the makeup. Besides the hair, what other major things do they do?
Well, the worst thing of all is the fact that Holmes had arched eyebrows, and I don't. So they glue my eyebrows. That's all right, except at night. When I get back to the hotel, I'm having dinner, and all I'm doing is picking the glue out of my eyebrows. That's pretty awful. It's to make me look as long and thin as I possibly can. It's the hair, of course, which goes straight back. Then it's the makeup, which is 2 layers. Then I have a lot of shading under the jaw, on the side of the nose, down the nose, a lot of white on the forehead to look as though I've got a genius brain, My ears go red, so double makeup on the ears. Hands, 4 layers of makeup on the hands. It takes about 58 minutes, 48 to 58 minutes, depending on, because we chat and have coffee and chat, you know. But that's basically, it takes about 45 to 48 minutes.
But I've noticed that your nose looks definitely sharper in the film.
Well, that's my darling Sue Milton, who's made me up for 9 years. And done all my disguises. Yes. Yes.
If I may just come back to the subject of becoming Sherlock Holmes. I guess I was wondering, is the gestures deliberate? I think you just answered it when you said they just come because...
Well, there's indications in Doyle. It points. I think the thing that I've missed, and I cannot find a way of doing it, is his stillness. You see, the trouble is that he shouldn't breathe. He should almost be like a marble statue. And, of course, I have to breathe. He's also, because of trying to get this right for you, because I'm trying to indicate genius, I have to use everything I've got to hand. Excuse the pun. So I use my hands to, please, tell me. So I use my hands for that purpose. The thing I don't like are the things that happen to my face. And I can't help but being tongue-tied as a kid. Of course, this lip goes up sometime. I breathe, my nostrils flare, and I have this eyebrow that goes up. And that drives me crazy, because I think I'm as still as a rock. And I look at the film like, oh my God. And I call them my tics. These terrible twitches that go on. And I found the smile, that I didn't invent. Because how to indicate reassurance while thinking. If you're presented by a beautiful girl like yourself, this is not sexual harassment, my darling. While you're presenting a girl, you're trying to encourage her to speak about her life, and the little smile could help her. But the rest of it is difficult. You see, Hamlet said, like all the other parts are so much easier. It's because Holmes is a mind without a heart. How do you fill that chasm? That's the problem.
I just wanted to say you filled it extremely well, because there are some shows that I listen to like a radio, but I have to sit and watch. I mean, one, raise up the eyebrows.
Oh, that's encouraging. I walk around the hotel doing this sometimes. And of course, I've always had flared nostrils. And I breathe in and they flare. And of course, that's like an old horse. I can't bear it. I'm glad that there's something that likes the tick. Yes.
Have you become much of a cult figure in Berlin?
Bless your heart. And the thing is, you must remember what Linda said to Charlton Heston. Don't tell him. He's quite big-headed and that. The truth is, bless you, but I'm still playing him, so I've got to be very, very careful. Yes, I am, and I love it. And I tell you why I love it, because playing Holmes is quite isolated. He's quite an isolated creature. I don't drive anymore, because my mother was killed in a car accident many years ago and I stopped. And if you're traveling on public transport in England and people say, hello Jeremy, how are you? It's very nice. Very nice. Yes, I love it. Yes, sir.
Do you feel more adulation from American audiences than from British, who are quite accustomed to British film stars and British film acting?
No, England has taken me to its heart, sir. So I'm having the most wonderful time. I'm very spoiled. The British ambassador is giving a party for me in Washington. Can you imagine? I'll have to wear a tie. No, it's been simply wonderful. And I'm very thrilled because the ethnic groups in England love him as much as the whites. Our blacks love him. I'm thrilled about that. It's just been simply wonderful. It's jolly nice when a bus driver says, "How are you feeling today?" "What? Where are you going?" I said, "Sloane Square." "Oh, right. Come up front and we can talk through the window." I mean, that's really nice. Don't be lonely there. No, it's a very happy time. Well, I've just been offered this film with Harrison Ford. I feel I'll do that. I think, and I haven't read it yet, because I said I must do this first. So I'm going to read it on the plane on the way home from Chicago. Then I've been offered a play called Heartbreak House by George Bernard Shaw, starting rehearsals, of course, just when I start the next film. Then I've been offered a play at the Arneson Theatre called Henceforward by Alan Ayckbourn now. And I think what I'll do is just get on with playing You Know Who. And then the National Theatre of Great Britain have asked me to choose what I want to play, and then I'll pop in and do that. But you must remember, I'll be on a walkabout. I'm perfectly happy. Don't worry. Typecasting doesn't really happen because every time people see me, they're that idiots playing. He's left-handed, tongue-tied and dyslexic. What on earth? Yeah.
Who played Watson in Heston film?
Richard Johnson.
Were you involved?
Pardon?
Were you involved in it?
No. I've done it with her. I've done it with Heston. Once
No, I
as
mean
well.
in the film.
Oh, no. Oh, you naughty boy. They're both marvellous. How can I answer that? Darling. They're both marvellous. They're both friends of mine. One's different. One's the other one's different. But they're both good. Yes, sir.
You said you did Hamlet. Where is that? Is that on film or?
No, it was I did on stage. Just before you were born. 1961, 30 years ago. 30 years ago. Maybe you were just born.
I don't think I was just born because I'm 60 now.
Right. Then you could possibly have seen me. No, we did in London at the Strand Theatre. And it's a wonderful part to play because he has such a metaphysical essence. He has a great spirituality. Yes. Yes.
That's very interesting to say he's 60. I find the mix here very across all ages and sexes and things. Have you found that in the cities that you visited, that people that are coming out to see you were from all ages?
Yes. Yes. Yes, I think that Doyle's invention covers the whole spectrum. I'm always fascinated to know whether people actually feel that Doyle is in safe hands. I hope he is. What an invention. But I hope Doyle's safe. If you see what I mean. Nice man. Any more? Well, bless you. I have to slip now because my dear Louis, my son's best friend, is arriving at the hotel to show me your beautiful city. So if you will excuse me, I really don't want to be late, and I was expecting me at 4:30. You take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Much love.
Hey, Bill. Remember me, buddy? Ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder, as Mr. Brett goes to Tours St. Louis, we do have some special items, some one-of-a-kind items up there if you'd like to look for our special silent auction. So remember, we can take MasterCard.